So who is the most underrated player in the Championship? Today we'll be going through the league. I'll be giving my opinion for who is every single Championship club's most underrated player. I decided to go for a player who fans of that club may think they're not underrated, but for general fans of the Championship, they may not know too much about that player and know the role they bring to their individual team. So a lot went into this video. I'm interested to get your guys' opinions on it. Also, before we do hop into anything, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. Leave a link in the top line of the description down below. Really cool football app, which you can go ahead and check out. Over on there, you can check out some more detailed stats that we talk about for some of these players. You can check out who's currently the top scorers, top assisters in the Championship, all that good stuff. As well as that, you can look forward to the games we've got coming up at the weekend as well. We've got some really tasty fixtures coming up tomorrow. I will have my Championship score predictions coming out. But like I said, link in the description down below. Really top app. I'd highly recommend it. But without any further ado, let's hop in to today's video. So we'll be going through the Championship in alphabetical order. Let's hop into it. Starting out with Barnsley. Now this was a bit of a tough one to pick. Obviously you've got the likes of Alex Moat and Coley Woodrow, who have probably been their best players so far this season, but not really underrated. As an underrated player, I've gone for Bradley Collins, the goalkeeper. Now he was brought into Barnsley this season as really a number 2, coming in to back up Radlinger, but after Radlinger's injury, Bradley Collins has had to be the #1 goalkeeper, and despite only keeping 1 clean sheet, I think he's done fairly well for them. He's kept them in several games, and on a lot of occasions, I just think the guy's let down by his defence. Birmingham, I think, have got quite a few underrated players, the likes of Colin Djukovic, but I've gone for Dan Crowley. Birmingham fans certainly don't underestimate him, and they know the player they've got on their hands there, but I think that general fans of the Championship don't realise how good this guy is. He's got 3 assists so far this season, but his overall play, I was watching a compilation of him on Twitter the other day, and he's so good at that defence-splitting pass from deep-line playmaker positions in midfield. He can take about 5 of the opposition out with 1 single pass. He's so good at getting sort of the assist to the assist of a goal. Blackburn Rovers went for Lewis Travis, certainly not the biggest name they've got in midfield, you know, with the likes of Stuart Downing, Bradley Dack, Bradley Johnson, Lewis Holtby, but Lewis Travis offers something that all those guys don't, and I've been surprised that he's not been playing more for Blackburn so far this season. When Blackburn came to Deepdale, Travis was on the bench. That really surprised me because I think that pound for pound, he's probably one of the best midfielders. Actually, too, he's got a massive future ahead of him. I think that all the Blackburn fans see that, but the manager maybe not always. With Brentford, went for defender Henrik Dalsgaard. I think that a lot's made of Brentford's attack. You know, they're one of the most fluid teams going forward in the league. You know, everyone likes to talk highly about the likes of Ben Rama and Ollie Watkins and some of their midfielders, but in defence, Brentford have actually been really solid so far this season. Obviously, Pontus Jansson's come in, but after the departures of Barber and Konsa, people are a bit up in the air as to how good they'd be at the back this season, but Dalsgaard's been someone who I think has really stepped up. Very diverse player in the fact that he can play at centre-back or right-back or even in midfield. I think he's really stepped up this season. Underrated for me. Bristol City, I have to say, Andy Weimann is probably one of the most underrated attackers in the league. Actually, there was a lot of talk with Bristol City throughout the summer in the fact that they need to bring in the striker. Eventually they got Benik Afobe. He's now got injured. Obviously they got Jeju there as well, but the most consistent man going forward has to be Weimann. His work rate off the ball is second to none, and his goal scoring record this season has been very good. 6 goals and 2 assists so far, and he scores so many crucial goals for Bristol City, and outside of Bristol City probably doesn't actually get that much recognition, so for me, underrated. Cardiff, I've gone for goalkeeper Alex Smithies. The majority of his time at Cardiff so far has been spent on the bench as the #2 to Neil Etheridge, but while Etheridge was out the side this season, I thought that Smithies did a really good job there. Now Etheridge has come back in, Smithies has been demoted back to the bench. I think he's a really good goalkeeper for this level though, certainly good enough for a top 10 Championship club, so in that regard, it's quite unlucky that he's got a goalkeeper like Etheridge in front of him. Charlton, I've gone for Darren Pratley. I've mentioned this in the video before, but I thought that after he was relegated with Bolton a couple seasons ago, I thought that his time at this level was over. You know, he's 34 years old now, but he's really had a second coming in that Charlton squad. I think that he brings experience into that side, you know, in the midfield with the likes of Conor Gallagher, Josh Cullen, Sam Field. He's the person who brings experience in there, and he's absolutely brilliant at sitting in and breaking up play. I think he's been really underrated at that role for them so far this season. With Derby County, I've gone for Graham Shinney. I think quite a bit of underrated business that Derby did during the summer was bringing in Shinney on a free transfer. Made 5 starts for them so far this season, and in that time I've really liked what I've seen from him. Obviously, he scored that absolute thunderbolt of a goal against Wigan Athletic in the last minute to win that game, but he's come up with 2 man of the match performances so far this season. And we've spoken quite a bit about Derby's midfield really lacking creativity and anything going forward, but I think that Shinney adds that reliability in holding midfield. I think he's starting to form a really good partnership with Christian Bielik there. Fulham, I've gone for Harrison Reed. I think he's an absolutely brilliant, tenacious midfielder. This is now his 3rd loan spell out to the Championship, previously playing for Norwich and Blackburn Rovers. I've really enjoyed watching him play though. I think that he's got an absolute engine on him. He never stops running. Really underrated midfielder in the league. With Huddersfield, you can't look past Lewis O'Brien. Obviously for them it's normally Colin Grant who grabs all the headlines, but we're talking of tenacious midfielders. Lewis O'Brien is right up there. Only 21 years old. This guy never seems to tire. His energy levels are fantastic in midfield, and one of the toughest jobs that Huddersfield had on their hands throughout this summer was going to be replacing Aaron Moy after he left and went to Brighton, but O'Brien's really filled that void in the midfield. I think he's excellent going forward and at the back. Only 21 years old, one of their best players so far this season. I don't think gets the recognition he deserves. Hull City was a toss-up between Kevin Stewart and George Long. I've gone for the goalkeeper George Long because I think that he's done absolutely fantastic in filling the boots of David Marshall. A really calming presence at the back for Hull. Obviously, the main plaudits for them normally go to the likes of Bowen and Grosicki. But with Long having that number 1 spot this season, I think that he's really come into his own and there's been a commanding presence at the back for them, keeping them in multiple games. Leeds United, I'm going to have to go for Stuart Dallas. Probably the best way to describe Dallas would be the Championship's equivalent of James Milner. The guy can play absolutely everywhere on the pitch. Every week he guaranteed to get at least a 7 out of 10 performance. If you look at this on screen now, that is a picture showing every position Dallas has played in so far this season. It's absolutely staggering. He never puts a foot wrong, and he's not, you know, the most flashy player, but every single week, you know, you're going to get a battling performance from him. Leeds United, maybe faced with a band 4 goalkeeper Kiko Casilla. Dallas can probably fill that spot, and he can fill in net if he really wanted to. For Luton Town, I've gone for striker Harry Cornick as their underrated player. I think that a lot of the times James Collins grabs the headlines, but so far this season, no Luton player has been involved in more goals than Harry Cornick. 5 goals and 2 assists so far this season. Sometimes he can be used as a bit of a super sub off the bench, but he knows where the back in that is. He's got an eye for goal. I think he's adapted to Championship life really well so far. Middlesbrough, I've gone for goalkeeper Ainsley Pears. He had to be thrown into the deep end after the injury that Darren Randolph picked up, but since coming into the squad, 2 clean sheets and a fantastic performance against Derby County. It's probably one of the tougher sacks to follow, you know, filling the boots of Darren Randolph, but I think that Pears has done fantastic in his absence so far. I have read as well that he might have just picked up an injury as well, so Borough really will be in a sticky situation if he's going to be out for a lengthy period of time. But I think the 21-year-old's done really well so far and has been one of the positives in what has been a really dreary season for Borough. For me personally, Matt Smith at Millwall is probably one of the most underrated target men in the league because they're not the most flashiest of strikers. They're not, you know, prone to scoring, you know, they're not going to get 20 goals a season or something like that, but for what he offers to this Millwall squad and from his time at QPR, really underrated player for me. With his ability to be an absolute handful for defenders at the back, you know, as a North End fan, I hate coming up against this guy. I think he's had a really consistent season for Millwall so far, and perhaps fans of other clubs don't always see that. Nottingham Forest have a lot of big names in their squad, especially the people they've got going forward. As their most underrated player so far this season, probably between Ben Watson and Matty Cash. I'm going to go for Matty Cash because I've been really surprised from what I've seen from him so far this season. Now, I'd always associated Cash with being a winger, but what a fullback he's been for Forest so far this season. Statistically, he has been their best player so far. 2 goals, 2 assists from playing at fullback so far for Forest. I think he's been an absolute revelation in that position. With Preston North End, I've gone for another player who's been playing out of position this season, that being Joe Rafferty. When North End signed Rafferty last January, there weren't really too many high expectations of him. You know, he came in as a right back to back up Darnell Fisher, but so far this season, in the absence of Andy Hughes, he's been absolutely fantastic playing at left back. I think that having a right-footed left back has added a new dynamic to our game going forward. He's been a brilliant option down that left-hand side, putting balls into the box. He's been involved in several goals so far this season. Defensively, I also think he's been excellent so far, and perhaps fans of other clubs don't always see that with him. QPR, I've gone for Ryan Manning. Spoke about him quite a bit on the channel so far as well, but I think that now people are finally starting to realise just how good Ryan Manning is. I think he's been absolutely brilliant playing at fullback for QPR so far this season. A very diverse player, can also play in midfield as well. There were a couple links a few weeks ago with Newcastle potentially being interested, and it's no surprise to see why. Definitely one of the most underrated players in the Championship so far this season. Obviously with QPR, we're mostly talking about the likes of Eze and Hugill and Wells, but Ryan Manning can't be overlooked this season. With Reading, I've gone for Andy Yadom. I think he's been a really underrated signing since arriving from Barnsley. Probably one of the most consistent fullbacks in the Championship, and maybe it is because he's playing for a side like Reading that he doesn't always get the appreciation that he deserves, but I think he's been fantastic so far this season. 1 goal, 3 assists. Absolute bargain when Reading picked him up, and I think he's only gone on to get better as the seasons have gone on. Sheffield Wednesday, there were a couple I could have gone for. I've gone for Stephen Fletcher purely because statistically, Stephen Fletcher has been the best striker in the Championship so far this season based off average match ratings. Considering he's only scored 5 goals, that shows he offers so much more than goals to the Sheffield Wednesday side. A brilliant player when he is fit, and he is leading the line for Wednesday. He has an average match rating of 7.3 so far this season, and no striker has a higher average than that. I thought that would be an interesting stat to point out because I don't think a lot of people will know that. With the season that Stoke are having, it was a bit of a tricky one to choose from there. I've gone for Sam Clucas because I think that he's one of the few players who can take a bit of credit from this Stoke squad so far this season as a player who is giving it their all and has put in a few decent performances so far this season. Got 3 goals from midfield. 29-year-old, I'd say probably their most underrated player. Grimes at Swansea City, I think is a midfielder who a lot of people still don't appreciate for how good he really is. I think that after a couple of sort of mediocre loan spells to Blackburn Rovers and Leeds United, a few people sort of wrote Grimes off, but since being back in the Championship with Swansea, I think he's been an absolutely fantastic player at this level. In terms of someone who's capable of breaking up play, controlling the tempo of a match, getting on the ball and progressing his side going forward, Grimes is absolutely brilliant at that with Swansea. Perfectly fits into the system they play. I think his role goes quite underrated because he doesn't always get the most goals and assists, but for the role he's doing in that side, really underrated player. West Brom's attacking options get a a lot of love in, you know, the likes of Diangana, Phillips, Pereira. I think that now people are starting to realise just how good someone like Romain Soyuz is. So for that underrated player, I've gone for Semi Ajayi. I think a really underrated bit of business from West Brom in the summer. I thought it was absolutely fantastic from his time at Rotherham. I think they got a really good deal for him. A transfer that I thought perhaps went a bit under the radar when it was made, but I think he's gone to be a really solid player for them so far this season. Gets in that starting 11 week in, week out. Another player I'd throw up there, Kyle Bartley, I think has been really good this season. Furlong's done excellently as well. West Brom got a few contenders in there, but for me, I just edge Semi Ajayi. Finally, for Wigan Athletic, they've been having a bit of trouble for sticking the ball in the back of that lately, but one player whose performances have been consistent throughout the season, for me, have been Anthony Robinson. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Certainly a step up from last season. Week in, week out, he's seemingly getting better, providing to be a really nice attacking threat down that left-hand side. I think he's consistently been putting in at least 7 out of 10 performances every week now. But as you can see on screen now, guys, that is my starting 11 for the most underrated players currently playing in the Championship. So do you agree with my selections? Let me know in the comments down below. This was a tough video to come up with, but I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it. Who do you think are the most underrated players from your club and in the Championship in general? Let me know down below. But apart from that, will now wrap it up for today's video, guys. So if you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.